Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to this special session on accelerating digital transformation with IoT and analytics, organized in partnership with SAS. I am Shamanuja Das, Editorial Director, Enterprise Technology Group at 9.9, and your moderator for this session. Industry 4.0 has been an energizing term for manufacturing industry, especially after the World Economic Forum made fourth industrial revolution the theme for its annual meeting at Davos in 2016. Manufacturing industry has now taken massive digital transformation initiatives. If anything, the pandemic has only accelerated it and closed some of the gaps that remain, say in digital supply chain, for example. Indian manufacturing, which is now looking at to take its next leap, can probably look to compete leveraging this digital technology. But let me not get too much into it as we have a star-studded panel here. Let's listen directly from them. Let me just quickly read out their names from whom we are expecting. We are expecting Mr. Ajay Rambal, Head IT, LG Electronics, who probably has not yet joined. Mr. Anirudh Kadkol, Head Manufacturing and Supply Chain Digitization, Mahindra and Mahindra. Welcome, sir. Mr. Anjani Kumar, Chief Information Officer, Strides Pharma. Welcome. Mr. Deepak Bhosle, General Manager, IT Asian Paints. Welcome. Mr. Dhaval Pandya, Corporate Chief Information Officer, Piramal Enterprises. Mr. Kushal Vasne, CTO, Restaurant Infrastructure. Mr. Rajesh Uppal, Chief Information Officer, Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Mr. Rajiv Arora, Global Head of IT, Global Hub Siemens. Mr. Ramkumar Mohan, CIO Airworks India Engineering Private Limited. Mr. Vinod Khode, Group Chief Information Officer, Barak Group. And we are expecting Mr. Sachin Gupta from Usha International to join as well. From our partner, SAS, we have Mr. Deepak Ramanathan, Vice President, Global Technology Practices, SAS APAC. And we also have Mr. Arun V. Cheri, Director, Sales, SAS India. Let me quickly brief you about the flow. We'll have Mr. Ramanathan make a quick intro to the topic, and then we'll have specific questions for each of the panelists. A sincere request, please keep your initial comments to 2 minutes so that we can have some time for an open discussion after that. I'll not take much time and will straight away request Mr. Ramanathan to introduce the topic.
Thank you, Shama, and good afternoon, and thank you everybody for joining this session. It's a pleasure to be here. As like Sham said, I'm also not going to take too much time, but just as like an entry, you can't pick up a newspaper today without manufacturing being in the news. And I'm right now based out of Singapore, and the big news that's always there in this part of the world has to do a lot with manufacturing, whether it's, for instance, and which has impacts across the globe. One, of course, is the shortage that we're finding in chips and semiconductor chips. That's leading to a lot of semicon manufacturing trying to figure out how do you sort of increase capacity, and how does data analytics play a part in there in terms of like increasing yield. There is manufacturing that's certainly in the news in India, as India sort of does its giant and the world's largest vaccination program, which is again a lot of manufacturing in pharma. And of course, last but certainly not the least, the news that's coming out of India, especially in the last couple of days, around the bounce back in both in construction and manufacturing. I think manufacturing is definitely going to sort of lead the way. What we're seeing in Asia, especially in a lot of our domains in China, in Korea, in Japan, is that organizations, while on one hand have embraced actually manufacturing or industrialization 4.0, data analytics is being front and center in it, whether it's optimizing supply chains, whether it's looking at IoT and trying to read machine data, and more importantly, looking at how edge computing is possible, whereby analytics actually moves down to the machine, and it's a signal versus noise problem in terms of how you sort of eliminate some of those things. So I know it's a very esteemed panel that we have out here. Some very familiar faces, and a big hello to see Deepak, to Rajesh. Good to see all of you guys, and also hopefully make new acquaintances from all the other folks in there. So Sham, I'll hand it over to you, and thank you so much for hosting this panel.
Thanks, Deepak. And so we should straight away get into the discussion. But before that, one announcement for the audience. Uh, so those who are watching it live, you have quiz questions after this session, which will fetch you points to take you up the leaderboard and make you move closer to the top prizes like Maruti Baleno, Sony Bravia TV, and a lot more. Uh, now let's get started with the discussion. Uh, uh, let me start with Mr. Uppal. Uh, as we talk a lot about, as Deepak said in the opening remark, we are talking of India becoming, a favored manufacturing destination, and we are hearing a lot about next generation manufacturing, which uses this IoT, data analytics, AI, in both plant operation as well as supply chain. So, what exactly are the major components of that? The if we can decide this manufacturing 2.0, next gen manufacturing, whatever you call it,
Okay.
Mr. Uppal.
Yeah. See, uh, in our industry, automation in shop floor has been going in for a long time and all. Connected shop floors and all those things has been. I mean, I remember I did first project on shop floor automation on 20 years back, frankly. So it's something which is going on for a long time. But what is changing now? I think two things which are changing big right now is one is that all machines are becoming more and more intelligent with a lot of data available to you to consume. And you consume it by edge, you consume it directly, and all is the technology part of it. But there's the data available for you to consume on an ongoing basis. Number two, I think the technologies are available today to process those data both real time so that you can give feedback on the real time or processes to really look at trends and give you feedback to work on later on. So those technology also has got matured right now to handle that. So when you look at Maruti per se and all, so what we have done is frankly for to consume this technology, you need a very solid IoT architecture to be in place to manage that as a whole organization. How will you manage this whole large sum of data? And similar data will, for us, will also be coming from connected cars, which will be roaming around and which again will be a huge data around. So how as an organization you create that whole architecture of consuming those data, creating that whole framework of tools and technologies to really consume this data and take right decision to want to take it around, and also do the baselining on where you are right now and how do you want to consume this data. You want to consume the data for improvement in software efficiency. You want to consume the data for customer experience from a car perspective, or you want to consume this data for monetization later on to handle that and all. But I think that's something we need to work on that. So what I think organization need to do, according to me, is one is have your strategy on how do you want to consume it, and then having a right architecture to consume this data in the organization to do that. And last and most important part, you need capability to consume. So do you have right kind of people who can consume this data and take right decisions? Because you need a different kind of skills to consume this data. So do you have right kind of people who can consume this data and take direction? So is your skilling strategy is aligned to this architecture or not? Is the third area, next area to work on or not? So that's in very brief, what I see this as a technology and how it get consumed in the organization. I want to be brief, so that's my
Okay. You will probably come back there. So let me ask the same question to Mr. Katkar. Uh, when manufacturing companies talk of digitization, what are the major data play there? Of course, beyond efficiency brought about by automation, which, as Mr. Uppal said, has been there since 2 decades at least.
Yeah. So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as Mr. Uppal was saying, it all depends on which industry and what is it that you want to decide from the point of consumption, and primarily from the point of getting it made actionable. That would change from industry to industry. And within the individual organization, also, it would change depending on whether you are going to have a sales focus, or whether you want to have a focus on cost, or whether you want to have a focus on your supply chain, or whether you want to have a mix and match. So I think the major point, it takes us back to how you position yourself in the industry. That would be one of the key strengths of a Mahindra today, or a Tata Motors, or a Maruti, or any other player in any other industry as well. And once you decide on the differentiation of how you want to compete in the market, I think then the digitization would have to follow through to support you in your specific niche, which makes you more competitive. It might be in improving your market share or increasing your market share, or it might even be reducing your cost, or even looking at improving the quality of your vendors or your own manufacturing. So I would stick to one simple point and say, look at your niche, look at your competitiveness, and the technology should be able to follow through on that.
So you mean to say that it follows directly from your top level strategy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, great. Very brief, very pertinent point. Let me turn to Mr. Arora. Uh, See, you come from a manufacturing, but a slightly different. So your perspective, and especially, I wanted to ask specifically on the digital supply chain and the data play there, since you have actually worked on that a lot.
Thanks a lot. And I would just add to what two of my other colleagues, Rajesh and Anirudh, shared. We at Siemens are looking at, I know it has been a time now, what even Rajesh said, the convergence of the IT and OT together, because that's something that is redefining the world of Siemens in itself. And as what Anirudh said, we are looking at from the top or the tone, what that we really want to see. We are doing that in our manufacturing plants, in our buildings, smart buildings, in electric vehicle fleets, or a product portfolio. So it ranges from the complete thing what we have it right now. And then we are looking at how to target that, like in the manufacturing, how can we have 60% of our manufacturing tasks more digitized, not automated, digitized with all those sensors for quality and safety. How do we really have our infrastructure operations, which is ongoing operations? How can we really optimize the life cycle cost of it in the smart buildings? And third, we're looking at how do we really have a transport capacity boosted by, especially the area of our trains, what we are really predominantly focusing is the one what we really are driving. That would really make a big change what we're looking at to drive it out. When it comes to the supply chain management, basically, as we all know, Siemens being a large manufacturer, we produce thousands of parts, components, and we work with multiple suppliers, multiple areas. So for us, what we have been focusing to brief, we are really focusing on 5 use cases. How do we really have a data for the cost visibility? Second, how do we really ensure the purchase volumes? What Rajesh said, also even our colleagues share that the chips manufacturing, how do we really purchase volumes? Third, the contract terms and conditions. Fourth, on the future pricing based model change. And fifth is supplier risk. So these are the 4 or 5 use cases what we are internally focusing on the procurement side, and we are working with few startups both in Brazil, India, and as well as in China to see how we really leverage those kind of data to drive it out. That's what I would say in summary to you.
Thank you. Thanks for that perspective. Very nice. So let me turn to Deepak Bhosle. See, we talked of supply chain, and when it comes to forward supply chain, Asian Paints has been a kind of global role model, right? And with this, so and some of these things that people are talking about, of course, with latest technology, you probably did it, some 15 years, 20 years back, playing on data, whatever technology was available at that time. So what had changed? What had changed? And you can talk about the entire business, but specifically this forward supply chain, where a lot people give example of Asian Paints.
Yeah, sure. Asian Paints has always been a very tech-savvy company in terms of using technology to create business differentiators. That's been going for nearly 2.5 decades. And that's where when the pandemic struck us, it was like we were prepared to really react fast, like unlike a lot of other companies wherein they would have put in a digital strategy post the pandemic. So for us, a lot of these investments which we have made has made us some sort of a pandemic proof organization which is able to respond, and largely because the fundamental building blocks are digital. When I say we are digital, it's largely about we constantly scanning technologies and seeing how you can get them into your business processes to create a better experience for a customer, to get in more efficiencies, effectiveness in your operations, or to create newer digital products which can complement your own traditional products. And speaking specifically of supply chain, I think we've been using a very advanced forecasting algorithms 20 years ago, and that's because we have been early in the game. Our forecasting accuracies have been really good. But what the pandemic has really done is in terms of really brought to the fore that there are certain of these time series models which looks at larger past data. The linearity of past data to predict the future is no longer going to be the norm. You really now need to look at shorter demand signals, and that's where a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning is what we are really focusing on. How do you do that smaller level planning cycles, because you're going to be through lockdowns. The regional boundaries are going to get constrained. Every state is going to have different type of lockdown rules. In this, it's going to be data which is going to help you really search for. It's like a submarine going through a troubled water. And precisely we have done that with a lot of technologies in terms of picking this near-term demand signals, doing more advanced forecasting planning cycles, and that's really putting us in a better position to bring in more bring in more definition, or bring in more certainty in an uncertain world. Try to reduce the complexity which is emerging around us, and it's largely through our own DNA, which is very data driven. So for us, analytics is like the Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, as you call it. Brahma would help us create the Vishnu helps us sustain our operations, and the bigger space, Vishnu, the Shiva, which tries to bring about the disruption. I think we are playing it in all the spaces there.
So thank you for that Trinity analogy, and good point, man. So let me turn to a different industry, Anjani, pharma, and of course the use case for data and analytics in pharma in the business per se is well known. But let's keep to the manufacturing side, not get into where it is all data play. Okay. So in manufacturing itself, okay, whether it is batch quality, whether it is safety, there are quite a few use cases. So what is the data play? Especially my question is, what has changed in the last 3-4 years?
Okay, so in pharma, just like any other industry, I mean, I will start from right where Gartner said 5 years back, there will be 20 billion devices, IoT devices. And we all laughed at it. I don't know how many, but I definitely laughed at it. Today, we have 21 plus billion devices in the world as per some statistics, right? Pharma was a little laggard, I would say, but last 3 years have seen pharma going through the digital transformation loop. And if you look at, good thought from everybody, but I will pick up from what Rajesh sir said, data, right? Data is the key. And we, in the new terminology, is data never sleeps, right? So first part is, how do you generate the data, or how do you capture the data in pharma manufacturing or any industry? And that is where the whole devices and hyper connectivity comes into play, like all of your IoT devices. So in our case, we have sensors, imager, sorter, cleaning equipments, industrial robots, then warehouse drones, MES, manufacturing execution system, that itself is connected. Most of the machines are connected. And you do the electronic batch record, right from what used to be an electronic handwritten 150, 200 pages. Now it's all printed, all data captured right from the machine. So integrity is non-questionable in that. And that gives you the moment when you go through the compliance audit, it gives you an immense confidence from the auditor and regulators. So this is the biggest use case we have. And that was the starting point of MES IoT in pharma. But once you do that, the next use case which comes with the same system is you have a visibility of what is going on where, which was, if you look at companies like automobile company, which again Rajesh sir was talking, it was long back. But in pharma, this is very recent phenomenon. The third one which comes is golden batch or predictive analytics. So if you are hitting towards the threshold value where you will cross the limits and your product won't be usable, you get the signal right away that, hey, you are heading towards that. That's the third one. Manufacturing, there are several of other use cases where you have sorting of the rejected product through the bins. Then you have visual analytics, which is again post scenario, the AI ML use case where previously we will do only sample the product and we'll only do the quality checks for few of them. With AI coming in, you could check each and every tablet. What is the size of it? What is color of it? All sorts of parameter. And you do the rejections in real time. So the kind of compliance, the kind of patient safety you get is at a very different level. Then what you do is once you have the data, you could do post facto analysis. You could do APQR, which is annual product quality reviews. You could do continuous parameter verification. So it enables from the compliance perspective. And then once you have this, it also helps you in doing the OEE analysis, right? Operational efficiency improvement. And that is one of the use cases which innovative companies have been using for quite some time. But I would say generally companies some of them have started using for last couple of years, and it is definitely yielding the result. The third one, which is a supply chain resilience. You heard all along that API is not there, remdesivir shortages. And all of this is if you could bring the whole control tower concept where your manufacturing is connected, your supply chain, your forecast and your supply, all of them are connected and you have digital control towers. It brings all together different results, and chances of disruption is less. You will still have disruption, but chances of it is less. And edge devices, be it in the field, be it on the ships, and be it in your own manufacturing devices. Also your API manufacturer. You are also dependent on your API manufacturer, how digital they are, and if there are delays from their side, how well they communicate and how well you are able to integrate on the platform. So I would say these are some of the things which we are doing in pharma manufacturing, supply chain, and quality, and which is helping us to bring the resiliency, predictability, and better product from the customer safety perspective.
Thank you, Anjani. So let me quickly get to the other Deepak Ramanathan. So see, we heard about. So can you just throw some light on what is in this area, taking broader manufacturing, not any specific sub-segment, what is the thinking in Asia Pacific, other countries? What are the major use cases? What are the challenges people see? What are the thinking that's going on, so that we can also know like where India stands?
Sure. So, and I think one of the things that Rajesh mentioned right at the top of the conversation is essentially, problem sets that were incredibly hard to solve maybe 10 years ago. Those problem sets can be solved right now. So if you look at what the massive amount of data that's streaming in, I think it's very important for organizations to understand what are the larger organizational objectives, right? So if you're a semicon company, you have a very simple objective. You're trying to improve your yield, and you're trying to reduce your scrap cost, because and a lot of the thinking around those manufacturing companies is very simple. I think they are looking at analysis, traditional analysis. I mean, if you look at manufacturing, they've always been doing quality control analysis. Your regular reliance chart, your reliability charts, Pareto charts. I think the difference that's happened right now is analysis has now moved inline rather than offline, right? As to wait for the batch to be created and then look at what the impact of that batch is. So a lot of the manufacturing folks, automation, again, like Rajesh mentioned, is key. Deepak also mentioned about black swan events, where what we're living right now, and how do you sort of deal with these black swan events. But going back to what Mr. Katkol and Anjani mentioned earlier on, was essentially around the fact that I think that the most important thing is to try and figure out, and that's what we're seeing in a lot of the manufacturing companies in China, more in Korea and Japan, in terms of their industrialization, is around driven by automation. And that process of automation has analytics embedded into that automation. So new algorithms, for instance, computer vision. With computer vision, and I'm sure this is valid to Mr. Arora also, which is, if I have a batch process coming in, and to what Anjani said, which is, maybe if I look at a tablet, can I sort of look at the tablet and say, like a blister pack? And I'm sure Anjani's company might be making blister packs to figure out, what is the effect of the blister pack? Is it valid? Is there any manufacturing defects on it? To do this earlier on was very hard because you couldn't do GPUs. You had to have, use traditional lookup and eye to the piece right now. But a lot of that now is automated, and that's where a lot of the manufacturing companies are moving towards. With some of our customers, like say LG, for instance, or Samsung, or in Japan, if you look at Sony or Toyota, or even one of the big ones also is the semicon manufacturers in Taiwan. They're all looking at how they can sort of move these analytics as the product is getting built, right? And it goes back to what, again, Rajesh mentioned at the top of the call is, what is your data strategy? How do you see that data strategy? Is it monetization? Is it to provide a better customer experience? Is it also, for instance, in some ways to provide a better product, right? And especially in the automotive industry, I mean, Mark Andreessen, I think it started in 2012, 2013, said software is eating the world. And that's nowhere more obvious than, for instance, in the automotive industry, which is primarily, it's now moved to a very software-driven industry, as opposed to your regular internal combustion engines, which is very manufacturing. So I think it's a fascinating move that's taking place to a greater reliance on data and a greater reliance of analytics to drive the business outcomes that you're looking at from an organization perspective.
Okay, great. So let me turn to Mr. Pandya. I'm kind of speeding up because we have limited time and we have a good number of panelists to talk. Mr. See, when this during the pandemic, we had a lot of quick digitization, very tactical, quick digitization. One of the things which I have personally been told by many CIOs of comparatively smaller companies, even mid-sized companies, even large companies for that matter, is that they have closed. Some process was digitized, but there are gaps, and they quickly closed that gap. Supply chain for one, the approval process were largely manual, and they did. So, but beyond that, that objective achieved, which was the immediate objective. Are companies doing something to look at the next logical stage of evolution, which is using their data to take operational decision, strategic decision in the long run? Mr. Pandya.
So thanks a lot, Mr. Das, and a very good afternoon to all of you. So one of the biggest initiatives which is largely under the digital umbrella, which is fueling the adoption of IoT, is the move towards this bandwagon of Industry 4.0, right? And when you talk about the Industry 4.0, there are basically four basic principles that it is working on, which is one is to say that how is the interoperability, how is the transparency of information, how is the technical assistance being provided, and how the decentralization of decision making is happening. So these form the four pillars. And if you were to cut across all these four pillars, you will see that data is one thing that cuts across all of these, and it basically somewhere also ties all these four pillars and brings it to life. So I think the change that I'm seeing now is that there is a conscious thought being put into a data architecture or a data strategy now, which used to be more of a post facto. And it used to be an implementation, and then when they get to the analytics stage, that's when they would actually look back at data and say that how it is going to tie back with and produce the results that we're looking at. But now it is more of an outcome driven approach that the companies are taking to say that, okay, these are the KPIs that we wish to monitor, or these are the improvements that we wish to hit, and then look back as to which are the data hooks that are actually fueling that. And when you talk in specific about IoT, so IoT is not exactly a very simple piece of technology that we are talking about here. It actually has about 6 layers of abstraction and integrations that come through, right from the sounding layer, and if you were to go up to the edge computing part. So as you move across up the value chain, there is more and more abstraction and integration capabilities that come into picture. What happens is that the type and the quantity of data with addition of each layer also changes drastically. So one of the very important questions, and I think somewhere Anjani also mentioned about 21 billion IoT devices, is that it's not how much of data, because there is going to be enough and more data that is going to get generated now. It is the question is now getting changed to say, okay, what is the data which is actually required, and is it being made available in consumable format at the time that you need it? Something that my predecessor just spoke about. If you're looking towards real-time corrections and analytics, so that's where I think the entire data management and the having a common data layer, of properly thought through data layer, not to forget the security aspects of things here, right? Because there is always prying eyes of the malware and the intrusions that is happening, and you couple it up with the GDPR and the data protection, etc., that is coming in, and then you're talking about decentralization of decisions, which essentially means that you're enabling the machines to make the decisions. So the complexity becomes so much more, because we're talking about a complete technical assistance here. So I think that's where I think the game is going to be. If you are going to, if there are offerings which concentrate on providing a very clear data orchestration layer, which will help us consume the right data at the right time in the right format to generate the right insights, and which seamlessly ties up the IT and the OT layer importantly. Because when you're talking about the digital supply chain, talking to manufacturing, these are very two different types of data that we are talking about, and the interpretation is extremely different. So I think a very, very seamless data orchestration layer is something that could, be the make or break of this entire exercise when you're talking about, moving from descriptive diagnostic to predictive and prescriptive.
Thank you. So, let me turn to Mr. Vasne. So yours is a, kind of sunrise industry. So you have, an opportunity to leapfrog, leveraging data. So can you just give some examples from the use cases of what we are doing in your industry, because not many know very well about that industry.
Sure. So I think I'll cover two parts. One is about our industry, and also there are lots of senior folks are there from automobile sector. So I want to touch base one very critical example which came to my mind. So first, talking about regarding my industry. So now recently we have seen lots of innovation in terms of solar modules itself. Like earlier, if same amount of area or from a module perspective, the electricity which it used to generate, now that has increased drastically. Plus in terms of monitoring, so like be it drone based thermal imaging analysis, right, or other kind of analytics, like be it soiling losses, solar radiation basis losses, and how we can improve the efficiency of the plant, how we can do the preventive maintenance, like if in any inverter there is a likeliness it may break down. So all those things, and right from manufacturing till generation of solar energy, or even windmills and all those front, there are lots of innovation, automation which has happened. And I always see it as a end-to-end integrated journey. So right from your raw material supplier to maybe your finished goods, then to your warehouses and to the end customer. So I just want to take one example. We all are seeing, we all have heard driverless cars, right? Now the pace at which, or the quantum of data which they are processing and the speed at which they are processing, it's fraction of seconds. They have to take decision, otherwise they may hit the next car or maybe a building, right? So that is the kind of data now we are capable of handling and taking that fast decisions. Now all these things has to go into our manufacturing sector also, and not just manufacturing. I am talking to like in terms of supply chain. If you take an example, now cars are having sensors. Okay, this particular equipment in a car or some particular part, there is a likeliness it may break down. Now it can trigger to the nearest dealer and back to the maybe a warehouse if that part is not available. If it is not available, then someone can manufacture also. So entire supply chain end to end can be planned. Right? Now the time is there that in place of working in silos, we have to think of end-to-end supply chain and having less on our shelf. We all say, particularly in retail industry, we all say like there should be a faster turnaround time. We should not have ideal items lying on our shelf. Same thing holds true for our warehouses also when we talk about supply chain. And when I'm saying warehouses, it is raw material warehouse also, or go down also, as well as finished goods also, and then with the dealers. So if we talk about or think from a holistic perspective end to end, because now all in our homes we have Alexas, we have smart air conditions, there are so many smart homes are there, right? So all those devices are generating data, and using that we can plan end to end everything. And I'm not saying it's just one industry, it's almost touching across all the industries. And one very critical area is R&D. We all have seen how fast we have developed the COVID vaccine, right? So which is, I don't think without data, without IoT and analytics and advanced AI, it was possible. So lots of innovations are happening. And I think the rate at which, so earlier if some equipment or some car or some vehicle or maybe a mobile phone which used to last for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, now it is getting outdated in 2 years or 3 years time period. So rate, speed, everything is changing. Same way, now we are seeing more threats coming up more rapidly, and their severity is on higher side. So I think every area now is being touched by IoT, your analytics part, machine learning, right? So I don't think, many people might not have realized, but every aspect of our life now, it is being touched by these areas. Whatever we are doing, like particularly, and in pandemic, there were some people who were avoiding that or being reluctant to accept that, but pandemic pushed them to no, there is no choice left. So there are certain industries or certain places where it was a pandemic-led disruption and pandemic-led digital transformation, which has happened.
Okay, so once the basic, digitization happens, then you have your freedom to take into the next step. Let me go to Mr. By the way, welcome Mr. Sachin Gupta here joined, and from CIO of Usha International. But I'll come to you a little later. So let me go to Mr. Vinod Khode. So what are the current what are the contours of your current digital transformation? Because digital transformation, I can say that I have done, it is not SAP implementation. So it is a journey. So what are the current contours, and what is the data play there? What are the new things that you are trying to do with data?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me, and good to have this esteemed panel and listening to them. So coming to your question, what is Varroc trying to do in this area? So we took a stock of, as Kushal was saying, that pandemic led a lot of acceleration in the digital adoption. So as of now, I think last week, I would say that we were almost like 90% of our workload is moved to a cloud now, including SAP. And we did it because we had a choice to, we were at the point where we had to refresh our hardware. And we took a call that instead of refreshing our hardware in data center, why not adopt the cloud? And we did that along with SAP and our the other thing that why we did was that we knew that our IoT project is going to get launched this year. And as we were discussing earlier, that IT/OT is going to be, or is the main key thing, that just trying to do IoT is not going to help and give the value. You need to tie it down with your data, which is coming from a transaction, so that you can have good, intelligent, actionable insight, as was said by Anirudh earlier. So that is what we are trying to do. So IoT is one that we have done. We have moved to the cloud along with our ERP. And the other areas where we are trying to create a culture of innovation and digital adoption is the RPA, where we are going heavily into areas like AP automation. We started with about 10 plants where all the invoices which are hitting your gate, they get scanned, and then everything after that gets automatic, even to the entry of that data into SAP. Checking the data validity with SAP, handshake, and all that is getting done. So that is adding a lot of accuracy right first time and reducing the load at the plant level. The other reason that we wanted to do is because in the pandemic, we realized that being a tier 1 auto component manufacturer, we're also dependent on our suppliers. So if we, for some reason, we don't pay them in time, and these people were going through a pretty bad time. So sooner we can pay them and increase their cash flow and ROANA is going to help us and then keep our OEM happy. And in a business that we are, and we supply to Maruti, to Mahindra, and we are in a milk run state where if one of our truck doesn't reach there in 2 hours, we're basically stopping these OEMs. So it was important for us to keep our vendor happy and also implement technology for them. The other areas is also OEM driven. Is a lot of OEM expect that when their truck reaches our site for dispatches, they should leave. These are their trucks and they have milk runs and they have only limited set of trucks. So they need to go to your plant, pick up the stuff and come back in a limited time. And what we found that our teams at the plant were logging onto the OEM site and going to their website to find out the schedule, download the schedule, find out the packing list and print it then. And after that, you do the SAP invoicing. So that itself was taking good amount of 20 to 25 minutes because there are a number of items, like 10 items per truck and all. So what we did, put a RPA, which does all that. So as soon as the truck comes in and the things get started, and then it does something which a human does, it is doing it automatically.
Much faster. Okay. Thanks.
So
we are kind of running out of time. So let me turn to Mr. Mohan, Mr. Ramkumar Mohan. This broadly the same question to you. So what are the data-led initiatives that you were taking, especially advanced analytics with IoT in your industry? I think you are muted.
Thanks, Mr. So I come from service industry. We are into aircraft maintenance service. For us, the reason use case with respect to IoT is to automate our asset, and inventory management. Being a aviation MRO, that's been a pain point for us. So we have implemented IoT-based IATM solution, which we call Intelligent Asset Tracking and Management Solution, is what we have implemented to automate the tools issue and return. Because for us, the aircraft maintenance engineers, the critical resource, and the time they spend on aircraft is what brings money to us. So their productivity is very, very important, and so we want to address that area, and that's where we introduced IoT, and we help engineers to improve their productivity by reducing the time they spend on at the issue counter, the tools issue counter, whenever they need tools to work on the aircraft. So that's where we implemented IoT to automate that process. And in fact, there's been a great and successful project for us, as we are able to achieve close to 50% productivity improvement on our core manpower, the resources. On the analytics side, we are working on for us, is like all of us customers are important. So we are working on the data to do predictive maintenance. Currently, the aircraft maintenance that we do, it's more of scheduled maintenance. The aircraft comes to us as per the predefined timeline. So now, based on the data that we have collected, so we are working on how we can predict the maintenance that aircraft needs. If we can do that, we can reduce the overall TAT for our customers. We can also pre-plan the tools and parts required for an aircraft, because generally what happens once aircraft reaches our hangar and post doing the pre-index, and then we identify the tools and parts required. But if we can do the predictive maintenance by using data, that would help us to understand the requirement in advance. So that's where we are using analytics, using data, how we can achieve that. So these are the two areas where we are working on.
Definitely. Thank you. So let me turn to Mr. Sachin Gupta. And I want to ask a specific question to you, sir. So we have been discussing about manufacturing industry largely in the processes, the manufacturing processes. So I want to specifically pose you about products, because now consumers are also becoming fairly digital, and so everything they expect this thing. And since you play in that area, if you can throw some light on where you know uh, these technology like IoT being you see the users in products and the collection of their data management, which could be an entirely new business altogether. Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Shamanuj. And everybody, good afternoon. Sorry I'm being late, and apologize for that. Shamanuj, it's a great question. And I don't know, it's easy to answer the first part, where there is starting to be a play of IoT or Bluetooth in terms of consumer products. I got involved when I was in Havells first. We built geysers, lights, air conditioning, TV, refrigerator, fans, all of which was IoT controlled. And Havells had a very good story about that. In Usha, we're moving in that direction. We're working on the products that are IoT-based products. Now, the question is, I think the IoT product in India is still seen as a luxury more than anything else, right? Currently, the manufacturers, and I'm not only talking now in Usha, I'm talking in general, the industry is building IoT products because that's what the competition is doing, and they need to do that to stay in the race. I don't think there is a very clear user-defined case, or anybody's able to define a use case for a product. Why should a person buy an IoT product? At least I have not seen it yet, right? There's an air conditioner that talks about you can turn it off, on and off, sitting somewhere else, right? But why would I want to turn my air conditioning off sitting somewhere else, right? If I'm sitting downstairs, I can send a maid upstairs to turn it off and on, right? So other than saying, look, I can control my air conditioning sitting somewhere else in the house, I don't have to be the room. That's predominantly what the use case is. Even though I believe that there could be multiple use cases that could be there where you really could create a benefit for a consumer. For example, an organization can work with another organization, or an organization that has an air conditioner and a fan, which are both IoT enabled, right? Which will have sensors to measure humidity and temperature. You can then get those two devices to work together in tandem to say, whenever the temperature goes this much, the fan should go on. When the humidity level goes this much, the fan should go on, so on and so forth, and vice versa, where then you can actually save the cost in electricity, right? And there could be multiple use cases. So bottom line is, I don't think there is a very clear definition on use cases. The products are being made because they need to be made. Most of the products that I've seen in the market today are products which can be turned off and on. The lights could be dimmed, it could be increased in intensity, the color could be changed of a light. Right. Other than that, there isn't much use case, right? And I until there is thought process and investment in this use cases to get them to work, how can I get my, for example, and I used to say this in older days, right? Now I stopped saying it, that, and in India, it doesn't hold that much value because we are heavily dependent on maids and servants, right? Why can't I create a refrigerator where there's a space for milk bottle, and depending on the weight of that milk bottle, it can create an order, right? Why do I have to go and order milk and stuff? I still see my wife saying, कल का दूध बंद कर दो या 2 दिन आने दो या मत आने दो and all that kind of stuff, right? Why can't it get automated? That would be one good use case, right? A lot of people have moved to bottled waters, right? Why can't we say when my bottled water goes down to a certain level, it should automatically go ahead and place an order for it, so on and so forth. There could be multiple hundreds of use cases, but that would take a consumer good company to work with an e-commerce company to create that product, so the automation happens, right? So I think we're still thinking about in isolation. The other big thing I think we need to start thinking about, and I'm a member of IoT security group that's helping define a framework with various governments right now. So one of the things we need to think about is what happens to the security in IoT devices, right? They are completely dependent on what is the IT security or router security within the homes of a consumer. My last survey said 70% of the users still have their routers set by at default username and password. That really doesn't help. So really have to think about that. And then we come to the last point that we were talking about, Shamanuja, is on the terms and the facts about what happens to the data that is generated from all these devices. Honestly, I was talking to somebody in one of the organizations, right? They have close to about 40,000 consumers that are using a product, various IoT products, and their data that is getting collected is only getting collected from about 15 to 18% of the consumers. Rest are not even using the product. Okay? And the data that is being collected of when was the product switched off and switched on. Right? Whereas you can go into immense data collection in IoT, which could help you create a better not play with warranties, but create warranties that will give you an edge over your competition, so on and so forth, right? So there's so much there to do.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough thought that is going on in terms of R&D as to what should be a true use case and how can that help company gather data that could be used to organization's advantage. It's all about, let me just push the product because I need to get the IoT product out.
Yeah, there is some wow factor, some differentiation. And
right, and we need to get out of it, right? And make a product which is going to be meaningful for a consumer and also meaningful for an organization itself. Give you an example.
Sir, we are kind of running out of time. I think we have to, because this is one. I would thank you for the comment. Let me turn to Arun to summarize and quickly respond. We have about 3 minutes. Yeah.
Thanks, Shyam. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a fantastic session so far. Thanks for the valuable inputs and insights that you provided. This is what I've heard over the last 50 minutes or so. If I were to summarize all the topic that was discussed, they can pretty much be brought under 5 areas. And we see this repeatedly in the manufacturing space, both within the process as well as discrete. And this spills over to the CPG and the FMCG space as well to a very large extent. So essentially, we're trying to leverage database decisions and effectively deploying the decisions for us to be able to make ongoing improvement to the business, whether they're aligned to reduce optimized cost or improve revenue or improve customer experience. This is what we have been fundamentally doing for a very long time. And many use cases, many topics that we discussed over the last 50 minutes can pretty much be squeezed into one of these categories one way or the other. Now, if I were to take database discovery, those discoveries based decision and deploying that effectively in my x-axis. In the y-axis, in the manufacturing CPG, FMCG space, and manufacturing covering both discrete as well as process, is fundamentally how do we manage material better? How do we manage our manpower better? How do we effectively make use of the machinery that's available? How do we improve the methods that we use for us to be able to produce better? And of course, how do we measure on an ongoing basis to make ongoing improvements? Now, is this anything new? No, we've been doing this for the last 40 odd years, and this is the way we've been servicing the manufacturing industry. What has changed by and large over the last half a decade or so is the speed at which we are able to move this machinery right now. Right? It used to be predominantly a batch process or more of a reactive approach. Now, considering we have technology like even streaming and in-memory analytics and real-time decisioning, we are able to ingest, act, and optimize what decision needs to be made pretty much on a real-time basis. That's what we take a lot of pride in the way we add value to the manufacturing business, and many things that we've discussed over the last 50 minutes can be squeezed in there. Inevitably, we've seen tangibly across these 5 legs, we will be able to raise the bar that directly impacts on optimizing or reducing cost, definitely improving the customer experience and revenue or the profitability the enterprise is looking for. This is the spectrum that we fundamentally play, irrespective of the maturity that we've seen our clients have made. And last 1.5 years have been revolutionary, to say the least. A lot has happened in the last 1.5 years. Even we will be able to deploy this mechanism to be able to see how do we reap the benefits on an ongoing basis and provide the flexibility to our clients to react and respond in the shortest possible time. Should we need to face anything that happened in the last 1.5 years? God forbid we don't have to, we shouldn't be. But if we wait to, how do we leverage IoT and analytics in an effective fashion that reduces the response time to deal with the market better? I mean, that's the fundamental role that we play, and that's how we've been managed to make the impact in the manufacturing space. Back to you, Shyam.
Thank you. And I would like to, we have run time. I think there is something lined up. So thanks a lot for taking time off, all the panelists and Arun and Deepak as well. It was a wonderful discussion, and hopefully we'll next time when we do, we'll go to the next level, and especially the real challenges on ground. I would have loved to get into that, but time didn't permit. But we got a very good overview of the entire thing, and thank you.